Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your Libertarian car guy. I'm peering under the hood here of the 2016 BMW X5 eDrive. And have a look at this. Little 2.0 liter four-cylinder engine in this big and heavy 5,200 pound SUV. Well, BMW calls it an SAV, Sport Activity Vehicle. And it's very interesting. BMW has announced as official corporate policy that it's shifting away from internal combustion toward electric drive. And in the last several weeks, they've sent me a number of their models with the eDrive electric system, which is basically a plug-in hybrid system. You can see here the little door on the driver's quarter panel. Pop that open, and there's your female end for the plug-in, and it's stowed in the back of the vehicle. Like other plug-in hybrids, you can operate this vehicle on the batteries for a period of time up to about, well, for a distance up to about 15 miles and as fast as 75 miles an hour. And that's pretty neat, but there is a price premium to be paid for that, which I get into on my website, epautos.com. Also, some other little things that you probably should be aware of if you're potentially interested in this vehicle. Normally, the X5 is available with a third row, so that would make it more competitive with models that also offer a third row, like the Acura MDX and the Infiniti QX. But because of the hybrid components, particularly the battery pack that's located above the rear axle there in this area, you can't get the third row option with the hybrid, so that somewhat limits its functionality. And let's go for a ride. I'll show you how the thing operates. Interestingly, BMW doesn't really call attention to the hybridness of the thing. If you look around the car here, you've got a conventional gauge cluster. Let me turn it on. Okay. Oops. Okay, now it's on, and the gauge cluster is more or less the same as you'd find in any other X5. The only obvious difference, and you kind of have to look for it, you've got this little charge meter here that tells you the state of the battery charge, and I plugged it in overnight so you can see that the little bars, it's all filled up with electricity now, so we can operate in pure electric mode. And that can be engaged either manually or automatically by the vehicle. I'm going to go ahead and do it manually by pushing the eDrive button right there. And when I do that, you can probably see, okay, it says Max eDrive. And we will boogie on down the road. And I'll show you how this whole thing operates. And you can see that the tachometer needle, there's no movement at all because the engine's not running. And as we drive, you'll see that the tach does not move, and you'll see that the temperature gauge needle, which is here, also does not move. So we are not internally combusting as we go down the road here. I can go for about 15 miles to the top of locally what's called Bent Mountain before the batteries get to be on the verge of being depleted, and right about at that point, it's a 9% grade for a couple of miles, so I can then take advantage of the regenerative braking, which pumps electricity from the kinetic energy of deceleration back into the batteries. And I can actually make it all the way into town on the electric drive, and that's about 20 miles actually, so I wind up getting actually more range out of it than the advertised range. But the trip home means going up the mountain, and if I'm not able to plug in, don't have the time, or don't have the opportunity, which is generally the case, then I'll be burning gas. And interestingly, this vehicle's mileage when the gas engine's running is actually slightly less, well, not more than slightly less, than the mileage that you get with the diesel-powered version of the X5. That said, if you're able to operate at least, I think, about half the time on electric, you can get what the EPA calls 56 mpge, which is the combination of the mileage that you get running the gas engine and also the hybrid drive. And what's interesting about that is it's almost exactly the same as the pending 9 years from now corporate average fuel economy mandate that will require all vehicles to average 54.5 miles per gallon. And that brings us back to what I mentioned when I first started this video about that little 2-liter engine in this thing. The engines are getting smaller and smaller, and not just under the hoods of BMWs, but generally. Because of that looming pressure, 9 years may sound like a long time, but in the car industry, in terms of what they call product planning, they're already looking down the road at having to make vehicles that are going to be compliant with the future mandates, and getting a car to make 54.5 mile per gallon cut is virtually impossible without severe downsizing of the engines and reliance on partial hybrids, plug-in hybrids as here, and also electric vehicles. So it's technically doable, but the downside is that it's going to be expensive. This thing has a sticker price just over $63,000, which is about $6,000 more than the non-hybrid version of the X5 with the 3-liter 6-cylinder gas engine, and it's about $5,300 more than the diesel-powered version of the X5. So that's to give you some idea of what you're paying, and it's really the cost of uncle, and not just our uncle, but European uncle. BMW, of course, is a German manufacturer, and in Germany and some European countries, they regulate carbon dioxide as an emission because of global warming. They don't do that yet in the United States, but manufacturers have to take into account the regulatory environment in the countries where they sell cars, and the only way to reduce carbon dioxide is by reducing internal combustion or eliminating it altogether. And in Europe, there are actually IC no-go zones, meaning places where you can't go with a gas-engined vehicle. And that leaves you the choice of public transportation, walking, or an electric vehicle of some kind. So one of the things that is motivating BMW and other manufacturers to go with these plug-ins is that you could drive this thing legally in those IC no-go zones on the batteries, do your thing, and then get out of there, and you can then rely on the gas engine to get you where you need to go. But again, none of this is inexpensive, and the cost of cars is surely going to continue to go up as a result of all of these uncle mandates, both the European uncle and the US uncle. It's not so much about saving fuel anymore. If you get into it and look at how much fuel you actually save by operating this vehicle, as it is about placating uncle's mania for what have become, in my opinion, preposterously over the top because of the cost-benefit equation that's stilted away from the benefit of things like a 54.5 mile per gallon CAFE standard, and of this business about regulating carbon dioxide, which is an inert, harmless gas, as a tailpipe emission. Anyway, there will be more up at epautos.com shortly. I'm going to try and upload this video as soon as I can get back. But just to show you, if you look at the speedometer, I'm going nearly 70 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour. Tachometer's not moved. I am cold engine, and that's the whole deal. Anyway, we will catch you on the flip-flop, and thanks for being here.